It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. Welcome to another holiday edition of the Happy Families Podcast. A while back, I had a chat with a guy who I just have so much respect for, a really, really clear thinker when it comes to kids, big feelings, emotions, and parenting more generally. You might have heard of Andrew Fuller. He's based in Melbourne and runs something called Resilient Youth Australia. The guy is a fountain of knowledge. And I was talking to him about his latest book, The A to Z of Feelings. I asked Andrew in episode 319 of the Happy Families Podcast, why do feelings matter so much?
Feelings are your inner world. So we have perception of basically the outer world. And of course, reading the outer world accurately is incredibly important. But we have this other inner world, which often we're less tuned to. And so our feelings are in some ways our internal perceptions bubbling up, seeking awareness within us. And we get very confused about them. Quite often I think about feelings a bit like they're guests that show up unexpectedly at a dinner party you didn't really even know you were having, and some of the guests are hard to please. Some stay too long, some don't stay anywhere near long enough, and often we don't have much idea about what to do with any of them. And so often our feelings are signals about what we need or what we are seeking. So one of the really useful questions to ask ourselves about any feeling is, what is this seeking from me? What do I need at this point? Now, to confuse it just a little bit more, feelings aren't always true. So it doesn't mean that we necessarily need to believe every feeling. And I'm sure, Kylie, you've had this experience where you've met somebody and you thought, oh, they're a bit dodgy, they're a bit kind of sus, I don't think I'll hang around with them very much. And then later on you've kind of gone, oh, no, that wasn't kind of the right kind of perception of them at all. Actually, they're a really nice person. And so you get this kind of signal, which is often useful but not always true. That's a really interesting kind of process.
I love the imagery that you've created there, Andrew, with this idea of our feelings being unexpected guests that just show up unannounced, and we have to work through that process. And how you also touched on the fact that feelings are just feelings and not necessarily true. And I think that that's something that I have had to work personally with in recent times. Learning that process, that's been tricky for me.
I think there are days for all of us where at the end of the day, we kind of scratch our head and go, why the heck did I get into such a kind of stressed out situation or got so upset by that particular thing? And it doesn't often make sense. And so feelings can be related to the current events in your life, but gee, we can hold on to some history in ourselves, can't we? That basically means we misinterpret stuff. And if we keep doing that and getting it wrong and believing that our feelings are true, then we can end up in all sorts of bother because we're misreading the world and misreading ourselves in it, and that becomes a major problem.
Andrew Fuller with some wisdom for us from episode 319 of the Happy Families Podcast. You can go back and hear the whole thing just by pushing that button. Episode 319 with Andrew Fuller, all about his book, The A to Z of Feelings. Worth a look if you'd like to get your head around it. I think Brené Brown might have copied off him and come up with her one, The Atlas of the Heart. Same kind of idea. Both wonderful books and both full of great ideas for us to navigate the challenges that life presents us and the feelings that come up every now and again. Starting school is an exciting time, but it can also be a little worrying. The Starting School Activity Book is a printable workbook that will help prepare your little one for the first thrilling school days and give you tips on the best ways to talk about all the new things they're going to experience. Perfect for kindy, preschool or big school, and absolutely free. Online at happyfamilies.com.au. It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers. Now, tomorrow, a really important conversation about boys with Maggie Dent. I hope you'll join me for that episode. As always, we appreciate Justin Rulon and Craig Bruce for helping us to make the podcast sound great and giving us the ideas for what we should talk about. The Happy Families Podcast will be back tomorrow. If you want more info about making your family happier, you can visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.